extra for you. I'm usually carrying a spare. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the DeKalb Planning and Zoning Commission meeting this Monday, July 17th, 2023. Could we start with a roll call, please?
Becker.
Here.
O'Flaherty.
Here.
Andran.
Here.
Stoker. Wright.
Here.
McMahon.
Here.
Maxwell.
Here.
6 present.
Thank you very much. We'll move on to the approval of the agenda. If there are any deletions or omissions or additions, please mention it now. If not, I will ask for a motion to approve.
I move to approve the agenda as submitted.
Moved by McMahon,
Aye.
seconded by Wright. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. We go to the approval of the minutes from June 20th, 2023. Again, if there are any additions or deletions, if there are no corrections, I'll ask for a motion to approve. Moved by Wright,
I second.
seconded by O'Flaherty. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, same sign. This is the public participation portion of the program. If you have anything that you'd like to speak to that is not on the agenda for this evening, you may step forward. I take it this pertains to the agenda items tonight? Yes. Yeah, okay. If not, I will close the floor and open it up to new business. Today we have a public hearing, a petition by Nearing Electrical Works Company for the rezoning of parcels along East Lincoln Highway, East Locust Street, North 7th Street, North 8th Street, North 10th Street, from the SFR1, SFR2, LC, and LI, and HI districts to the PDI Planned Development Industrial District. I understand we have a presentation.
Good evening. My name's Tom Jakowski. I'm the CFO at Nearing Electrical Works. I just wanted to give some high-level commentary, and then I think Dan's got a PowerPoint slide which should help us at least visualize some of the properties we're going to be discussing tonight. But taking a step back, Nearing Electrical Works has called DeKalb home for over 110 years. Our wire and cable products are used primarily in the utility industry, and we are experiencing significant growth due to expansive maintenance to our nation's electric grid, as well as the government's continued push towards vehicle electrification. Our company motto is, "We bring the power." From power plants to substations, from substations to building exteriors, growth in electricity drives growth in our business. Last year, we approached the city because we were beginning to run out of room with our existing footprint. Since then, we have identified 11 parcels that would allow us to expand our footprint within DeKalb city limits. While we haven't identified a specific use for every property, we feel as though the various properties we've acquired over the past year set us up to accomplish our short and long-term growth initiatives while leaving enough room for other opportunities in the future. There are no immediate plans to construct new buildings, but our plans include filling up 2 former buildings, the former Ideal properties. We will also be demolishing several structures, existing structures, which we feel will improve the overall aesthetics of East Lincoln Highway, the East Lincoln Highway corridor into DeKalb. We've been proudly DeKalb for over 110 years and are here tonight to ensure that we can continue to call DeKalb home for another 110 years. Dan, if you want to maybe flip through the pictures or walk us through the
I'll
individual
just
properties.
summarize the staff report for
Thank
the
you.
commission and audience. As mentioned by Tom, Nearing Electrical Works has submitted a petition to rezone 21 parcels to the Planned Development Industrial District. There's various zoning districts existing on the properties. Last October, the council approved a development agreement with Nearing. The intent of that was to find solutions to, there's a friction between the neighboring property owners, particularly along East Locust Street, between the truck traffic, semi-traffic parking, storage of materials, nighttime noise. So the agreement was approved, and it called in there for the rezoning of the parcels along East Locust that they owned at that time, North 8th Street, to the PDI district. The agreement also called for, and it was approved for, the vacation of East Locust Street from North 7th to North 10th Street, and then from North 8th Street from East Lincoln to East Locust Street. Since approval of the agreement, the Nearing has purchased late last year, earlier this year, 8 additional parcels along East Lincoln Highway east of the UP Railroad line, which you see an aerial up here. So it's kind of broken down into 3 sections in terms of the maps, which we'll go through. All told, about 27 total acres, and as mentioned, there's no new buildings proposed at this time. They're doing an addition on one of them on East Locust at the current time. So the rezoning provides a maximum flexibility for the applicant for the growth. Rearranges vital functions within their properties. They've expanded their office, manufacturing, warehouses, storage, and parking facilities over the years, and recently, particularly the storage of the wire spools. The company's growth in the neighborhood has rubbed up against some neighboring areas, but with the agreement approved last year, that will hopefully reduce that and keep a company that's been in the city over 100 years in the community. What you're looking at is an area that's east of the railroad tracks, which they bought, and I'll go through what they're requesting on each parcel in terms of what the current zoning and what their proposed zoning is, and then the development conditions for that. So for the zoning map, we need findings of fact. The first is we look at the comprehensive plan, and I listed in there about half the parcels are listed as industrial on the comp plan. The other half are commercial. So these are commercial, industrial indicated properties in our comprehensive plan. So they're meeting the plan. Many of the goals within the 2022 plan are being met. Again, the rezoning to PDI gives flexibility to the developer, gives a little control to the city. So it's a good trade-off. The rezoning conforms to the UDO. They're not asking for any waivers at this time. Again, there's no new buildings proposed currently. The rezoning will not negatively affect long-range plans of the city. The rezoning constitutes an expansion they like to do, so the PDI zoning, expanding in those areas they like to do, fits in with that. Utilities, public services are already provided to the parcels. And as I mentioned, the East Locust, North 8th Street were vacated in order to provide parking and loading areas and reduce the conflicts in those sections. In terms of public input, since the hearing or the agenda was posted Thursday, we got one public response form from Joe Holm, H-O-L-M, from 1427 East Lincoln Highway. That's across the street at the corner of East Lincoln and Holly. He indicated he's worried about semi-truck traffic entering and leaving the proposed area, and also about stoplights at the corners of Holly and Simon Street. I did talk to Joseph a little bit when he submitted this. I mentioned there's not enough traffic or warrants to meet any traffic lights, so those will not be going up. And truck traffic, there'll be some going into the site. Any access, new access off East Lincoln will have to get approval by the city engineer and IDOT. That's a state highway, so they'll have to probably do a traffic analysis and study for that. And I think the applicant maybe speak on the truck traffic between the two properties, campuses a little bit, might address that. So our recommendation is to approve. Allows the flexibility for the applicant to utilize the properties that meets their business needs in the future, as Tom described, and it also allows the city some benefit and some restrictions on there in terms of making sure that any outdoor storage spools are screened by an 8-foot-high fence. And also, so the recommendation is to approve. There's a sample motion, as we always prepare, and I'll go through probably each area, just showing what areas are going to be rezoned from what to what, just to get that covered, and also go through the development standards for each area. So the area on East Lincoln Highway, there's a home here that's currently zoned light commercial at 1430. That will remain. They would like to do in the future, let's keep it as a home or perhaps a corporate lodging facility, or the access may go partially through that site. So we've, each area, each parcel has a list of zoning standards, permitted uses. So it'd be like commercial district standards and uses, single family, corporate lodging, demolition, we have to meet any city standards, of course. Any access, new access requires IDOT approval and city engineers approval. Any outside storage of spools will be required to be at least 50 feet back from the right-of-way of East Lincoln Highway. So no spools will be up close to the roadway. 4 parcels here. They indicated they will be demolishing the buildings there. One of the parcels is already vacant, and that's the general location where they're going to add an access into the site that will lead back to 1434 East Lincoln, where they'll have a large area for the storage and also manufacturing storage within the building back there. So that's the reason for the access. And the access will be, again, on those pieces, there'll be at least a 50-foot setback of any storage spools, so they will not be up close to the roadway there. And those are zoned light industrial, so that's light industrial to planned development industrial. 1330, the former Ideal building, and 1434 down here, currently zoned heavy industrial. They rezoned that to PDI. There are setbacks in there for spools that pretty much would have the spools only behind the building. There'd be none up front here. And the setback is from Lincoln Highway enough to come to about here, so they'll be able to store spools on this property, but they'll have to be enclosed by an 8-foot high site-proof fence for that, as they currently do over at East Lincoln and East Locust. They did want the ability to put up a 6-foot high fence around the property, the perimeter, 50% open, for access control security purposes. Moving on to the, so it covers all the parcels on East Lincoln, east of the railroad line by UP. And there's just some street view photos. If you're not familiar with the areas, it's kind of showing this is the area that's going to be the general area of the new roadway into the site. The buildings that you see here straight ahead and to the right will be demolished. The home is over here, which will be maintained. That's the front of the Ideal building. That's a home that will be kept. Moving over to 10th and East Locust Street. Oh, back on the large open space parcel to the south, that will be rezoned to PDI, of course, and any perhaps future, they have no immediate plans right now, be a future building, outdoor storage of spools down in that area. So, and they'll have to meet all the requirements in terms of screening down there. So this is the area that's, no future buildings are planned, of course. They have an addition currently underway here in front of 1105 for storage of materials, spools. This area is mostly zoned heavy industrial, so we'll go to PDI, and this uses that reflect what's going on there now in terms of their main offices, administration area, storage, and manufacturing warehouse. Also included is this parking lot here, which the commission approved for a parking lot 2 years ago, a special use permit. So what I did in those was just to approve the standards that were in that special use permit, just applied them to this PDI zoning. So that's a restriction on no trucks, trailers can park there. They can maneuver as they're backing up across East Locust. No outside storage of spools will be allowed there on that parking lot. So just be parking as it currently stands now, reflective of the special use permit that was approved 2 years ago. And finally, the area west of 10th Street, or one back here, that's north of the tracks, which is this warehouse 240. It's heavy industrial, so that'd be rezoned to PDI also. The main plant, north side of East Locust, 805, 813 East Locust, permitted uses, what's currently going on there now. Any storage of spools, there's a smaller open area down here where they're storing items. Any materials will have to be screened by an 8-foot-high fence. We did vacate East Locust Street and North 8th Street, as I mentioned, so there's a separate pen for that area. And that will be reserved for private street and parking. The 122 North 8th, 816 East Locust, that's the building here, which goes up to the lot line, so that was just reflective of what they're currently doing there, manufacturing, warehouse, distribution. 807 was the one they purchased from Virgil Cook last year. That's storage now. Building was demolished. It's storage of spools there and screen. Same with across 8th Street, the Virgil Cook former property. Given the PDI zoning, requiring 8-foot-high screening around any spools. 719, more recently purchased here. Home currently there. They plan to keep that as is now, or in the future, perhaps demo it and put storage of spools in that lot, screened by an 8-foot-high fence. And finally, 116, the vacant parcel here along North 7th Street in Locust, reserved for outside storage of wire spools and other materials. So that's kind of a run-through of the particular parcels. Exhibit A shows what the rezoning request is for each parcel, and Exhibit B is the standards that I just went through. So that's part of the motion that you're reviewing.
Okay, thank you, Dan. We have several people that have been asked to speak to the matter. I'll call them up in what I believe the order was that they arrived. Damian Wolford, would you step forward and just tell us your address?
I live at 1018 East Locust. I've been living there probably for 8 years now, since July 4th. My wife's family has lived over there for over 44 years, and they've had plenty of run-ins in with nearings. We've been here because of the parking lot situation before, but I'm just trying to get a grip on the code. I actually just found out about this today because I'm working a late shift and one of my neighbours told me about it. But I'm trying to see what they're trying to rezone there at the moment, because we're still having problems there with trucks parking. We just left there this evening. There's a truck right outside my house. I called the police 2-3 o'clock in the morning. These guys, the cops don't call me back. The trucks are running. The other night, a truck hit a horn for some reason, tried to get a hold of a forklift driver or something. Kids wake up. We're having a big problem over there. We've come here numerous times over and over, but I just want to see what they're trying to do there now as code-wise, like from light duty to heavy duty, or what's actually involved.
Okay, Dan, would you like to?
But yeah, the zoning, all the parcels are being zoned to planned development industrial. So the parking lot will not change that's there now. That
Yeah,
stays the
but
same.
I'm not worried about the parking lot. I'm just worried about more trucks and stuff coming in.
The
'Cause at
reason-
the moment, we have the park there, and the semis parked right there. There's kids and everything over there.
The applicant can respond to that, but I think what they're doing is the expansion over to East Lincoln is to alleviate some of the pressure of truck traffic on the streets here, to ease that up. So the applicant can probably speak more to that. Go ahead, Tom. Yes. No, up at the podium.
Yeah,
in
if you
front of the mic.
step up to the podium, please.
Yep, so I know the city has installed no parking signs on what would be the north side of the street there. What's unfortunate is the truckers don't seem to abide by that. So we've encouraged, whether it's the police department or anybody, to ticket those trucks. We instruct them not to park there, and they have a tendency to do it anyway. So most of our personnel redirect them to various different parking outlets, one off of 4th Street, and that's sort of a struggle that's been in process here. But I don't know, barring that changed with no parking and trying to find the truckers on the north side of the street, And as Dan said, trying to alleviate some of this truck traffic over to some of these other properties.
Additional docks that are going in addition, that should provide more places for semis to pull off that onto our property.
That's right, and so the current structure, if you've driven by there recently, you'll see the steel frame going in there. But Ray, is that 2 additional?
Go ahead, Ray.
There'll be 2 additional docks that'll help alleviate, again, some of those trucks coming off the street, so.
But as you increase production, you
Could we have-
increase.
They got to
I'm
speak
sorry,
to the mic.
sir?
We're on video.
Yeah, if you, yeah, it's okay, we just have to manage them one at a time, so.
Okay, all right, thank you.
No, like, this is my neighbour Jim Gibson, we're here together, and both of us have concerns because obviously we live right beside each other. But if, like he's saying, if there's more docks going in there, that means more traffic. You're saying that the trucks are going to be pulling in off there?
I'm Ray Hott, I'm president of Nearing Electrical Works. No, in the, where we're putting up the new building now,
Right.
that is going to have 2 more docks. The sole purpose of those docks is to get semis off of the street.
Okay.
So we're not anticipating any additional growth in that building per se with this change. That's going to just continue to run as it has. Okay, but as I said, right now, we've only got 3 places that a semi can back in. We'll have 5. So that was part of the design goal of that property. So we were trying to address that situation as best we can. Unfortunately, when you have an industrial and a residential properties butting up against each other, these situations occur, and we just try to manage it as best we can. As Tom said, we don't own the trucks, so we don't have a lot of control over them, but we do instruct them when they call in that please park off of the street in our docks or on the 4th Street city property or on 7th Street.
Okay.
So.
At the moment, you have 3 docks, as you stipulated there, but on one of the docks you have dumpsters. On the other dock, there was a bunch of spools there for a long time, so there was only really like 1 that was actually working. And there's been 3-4 trucks on those there.
If you look right now, there's even spools of wire sitting out in our parking
Yeah,
lot.
oh, yeah.
It's because we're putting up this addition, and what will happen with this addition is all of those reels and so forth that were in that vacant lot behind the screen fence,
You're right.
those are going to be going over to the Ideal property.
Okay.
So, like I said, we're trying to make it as hospitable as we can and relieve the pressure there, but it's as I'm sure you get frustrated with it, so do we sometimes. So.
I know you said the semis are out of your control, but you have forklift drivers there.
Correct.
That go up and down the road.
Correct.
And they're beeping their horns at all times of night. We've come up with ways to drown out the noise, music, and air conditioning units and all sorts of stuff, try to get rid of this.
I can instruct them, and I'll try to do that when I get back. I'll
Yeah, but
try
this
to
has been
make
going
sure
on
we
for
have a
3 years.
Well, again, I'll try to tell them that, we need to respect the neighbors, and we'll attempt to
Obviously,
address it.
don't mean
Well, I
to
haven't
be
done
rude.
that yet,
Yeah.
okay? So let me
We've been knocking
try.
on doors over there for
So,
3 years, coming
okay.
here.
All right, well.
Well, David Napier, voicing your concerns, and again, I think that hopefully the changes will resolve some of that if the bays are actually going to be more active, and then they can get trucks in and out, or maybe they park in the bay overnight if they can't unload until the morning or something. But hopefully the 2 of you.
Like when you call the police, you don't want them there straight away, but at least if they come and show up and ticket what they're supposed to do, because I've never seen it. One time there was the community officer was there. I've seen him give 2 tickets once in 3 years, and there's been countless semis.
Okay. Have you, just out of curiosity, have you called back more than once, or?
Oh, and I've kept a log of it, yeah, and numbers and everything. We've got pictures of things, and myself and Jim. He's retired, so he can go down and talk to the city, talk to the police department. I'm at work, so I can't get there as frequently as I'd like, but I know both of us are pretty upset over it.
Okay, I appreciate that. Just out of curiosity, are they letting their engines run at night when they're parked?
100%, yeah.
Okay.
Beeping their horns. Like I said, on the way here today, there was a semi unloading right outside the house.
Okay.
So I wish I videotaped it, but sure we had.
All right, thank you. Next up is Tony and Rebecca Peterson. be so kind as to state your name and address for the record?
This is Tony, and I'm Becky Peterson, and we live at 1415 East Lincoln Highway, directly across from where they're going to be putting these trucks into.
They got the arrow up there.
Yeah, and our concern too is the traffic of the trucks going into the parking lot, sitting there, first of all, sitting there to pull into that spot, blocking our driveway at all times of the day and night. But we already have a hard time getting out on the highway without trucks sitting there. So our main concern is the truck traffic, and how they're going to get into the parking lot and out of the parking lot without blocking our driveways. And I think our neighbor here was talking about the traffic there too, at Holly. That's a very dangerous intersection, as it is right now. When the first year we moved in there, we've been in this house now for 33 years.
Yep.
And the first year that we lived there, we've had several deaths. Both of our cars have been rear-ended, sitting, trying to pull into our driveway. We're just sitting there, and they've both been rear-ended. So we're real concerned about the traffic, the trucks coming in and out, and where those driveways are going to be. That's our main concern.
Okay. Would you like to respond to that?
I would just note too, as I mentioned, any new access require a traffic study and IDOT approval, and city engineering approval. There'll be no semis be allowed to park in East Lincoln Highway and wait to get in. That won't be allowed, so.
They won't be
The applicant
parking,
wanna
but they'll be
address
sitting
anything
there to pull
further?
into the parking lot. They won't be parking there, but they'll be sitting, trying to get in there because the traffic is so bad, you can't get across our highway in 2 seconds.
Well, that may require some improvements to the roadway in terms of turning lanes, et cetera, that would cause them to pull off to the left and allow the 2 lanes of traffic to continue through. Again, a traffic study will be required, IDOT approval on it, and our city engineer approval to make sure that traffic does flow in safely.
So if they put in turn lanes, are they going to be taking part of our front yard to expand the highway?
There should be no additional right-of-way needed for any that type of.
And I'm listening to this fellow here about the traffic at nighttime and the noise at night.
We're only a small little side street, East Locust, it's very quiet apart from the semis.
I mean, we live on,
Problem with that, they can't control the
yeah,
trucks.
so it sounds like you're diverting the problem from your neighborhood to our neighborhood.
All right, Zach Gill,
Zach?
our engineer, is here. He could maybe speak a little bit to what that process would be, or, go ahead, Zach.
Yes, so, there would be a traffic impact study is what we would call it, and IDOT will review it. They would look at what you're referring to as a queue, so we call it a queue length or a queue time that the trucks would wait to make that left turn in. If that hits a certain threshold, the state themselves are not going to allow us to sit in what would be a through lane for regular highway traffic, and yes, then they would have that kind of center turn lane that you're referring to. So that will show in the study what that impact would be. It is a state highway, it is a truck route, and always has been for generations, so there's really no authority to restrict that sort of use, but they do the traffic study to see how the rest of the road network and the surrounding neighborhood are impacted, and then require the appropriate measures to mitigate that.
And to be clear, that would come before us again, correct?
Yeah, it depends what they're doing with the full access, if it's associated with some new building or some alteration of what the plans you have here, then it would probably come back. But if it's just an access into the site, the demo wouldn't require commission review. The new access would not require commission review. It would be reviewed by the engineer and IDOT per the standards that you just mentioned.
But it's fair to say that they would be notified long beforehand, before anything passes, correct?
Unless there's some zoning change or amendment, there would be no public hearing required for that. If they're putting a new access in, that does require, staff approval and IDOT approval.
Okay. Thank you. The third person we have is James Gibson. If you would step forward and state your address, sir.
I'm James Gibson. I live at 1024 East Locust Street, straight across from Nearing Electric. I'd like to ask the commission or the city government or whoever, is someone ever going to have an air quality test to see just how bad is the air from the diesel trucks as high, and I am not kidding, 11 to 12 trucks at one time on Locust Street. That's hard to believe, but you got 2, you got 3, 4 that can get into the docks. You can park 3 semis, that's 7, and they'll park 2 east of 11th Street, down towards the Park District.
Okay.
They'll park on 10th Street, which is very, very busy, and you have to get around them. I mean, they park on 10th Street, and you have to go out around them. So what I'm asking is, what are we breathing every day? From 5 o'clock in the morning to 7:30, 8 o'clock at night, we're breathing diesel fuel.
I'm sure that's a very legitimate concern, and thank you for bringing it up. I don't know what that's like compared to the trucks that drive by a block away 50 times a day or 100 times a day. I'm not sure, but Dan, maybe you can address this, but I don't think that there's any particular air quality measure for a given neighborhood rather than the general atmosphere as a whole.
Yeah, what we're dealing with tonight is this the rezoning
Yeah.
of the parcels, and the trucks have standards regarding emissions and statewide, nationwide, so there's no requirement for air quality analysis.
I'll ask you a question, each one of you. I'll ask each one of you. You live in my house. Do you think I could sell my house with all these trucks sitting there?
I'm not a realtor, sir, and I'm sorry, but I hate
Yeah, I
to
know you, what I'm saying is, you've made my property almost worthless.
Again, I wish
You
I could-
haven't, I'm not you.
Mhm.
But I'm telling you, even here, we were told, and I talked to some of your people, and you guys were in the process of buying the houses there.
Well, Mr. Gibson,
Okay.
No, it's okay. To Dan's
I'm
point,
sorry.
though, this
But
really
anyway,
is
I'm
about
just-
this specific issue as far as the property rezoning is concerned, but, you're more than welcome to contact.
Is the air quality thing a matter that the city should look at?
It's not part of this commission.
It's not part of our preview. Yeah, we don't have anything to do with it. Yeah, that would be city council that you would want to ask and to see what the air quality standard is. And again, I don't know how you would measure that in a limited area, but
Do you know who I talked to? Does anybody know who I
The city
could go
council will be
talk
dealing
to?
with the same issue, the rezoning is what they're going to be dealing with too. So,
yeah.
Okay.
What if I may real quick, Dave, if you're referring to attainment, which is what we refer to for air quality, the city of DeKalb in general is not in an attainment area, as in we have low enough air pollution that we aren't generally monitored regularly, but that would be the Illinois Environmental Protection Agency. They have an office out of Rockford. That would be who you would contact if you had a concern.
Thanks.
Thank you very much. Okay, if there are any other comments, if not, I will close the public hearing and open it up to the commission for conversation. Questions, comments?
It seems to me that everything we've heard tonight is involved with trucking issues, right? Egress, sitting, violation of parking standards, things of that nature. My question to the Nearing Company is, with the addition of 2 docks, will that eliminate most of the problem? And B, to the city, how about response time? If the police are called when they are in violation, how do we improve response time so that police do actually come out and ticket?
I'll take the city piece.
Thank you. I thought you might.
Can you hear me all right? sound like it's, okay. Okay, Bill Nicholas, City Manager. So I'll address the city concerns as I heard them tonight. Let's start with the police enforcement. Well, I can tell you that our Chief Operational Commander last week was on the street several times to ticket trucks. Now, the gentleman, I heard what he said. I think at some point after his shift he sleeps, and at other times he's at work. So whatever, let's say that's 14 hours a day, 16 hours a day, I can't say. But in that period of time, he's not a judge of what happens on the street. And I can tell you that the police will respond. I don't know of a dispatcher who works for us right now who will say, I'm sorry, sir, we don't respond to those. That's not going to happen. I don't have the chief here. I didn't anticipate this, but you can take my word for it as the chief law enforcement official of the city. That just isn't our policy. That isn't our style. We are running all the time. So that's what we'll do. And if somebody has a specific complaint, we will respond. Now, what's the purview? No, sir, I have the floor.
Yeah.
So I'm also listening. So this is about rezoning, right, tonight. So what is happening here? For the folks who are in the audience, and we've talked about this many times, the city, the company, the company has made changes prior to this to address noise, has made offers actually to buy the homes that were built long after the business was built there to try to improve. And now they're investing millions of dollars on the north side of Locust Street to provide some docks, to rearrange their location of the spools and how the trucks can enter and close. Are trucks going to never be on Locust Street? No, and nobody's making that representation here tonight, and I wouldn't say that that's the case. But that is being done, and the zoning actually on the Locust Street axis there is the minor item before you tonight. It's the rezoning of the properties to the east and to the south, which are on your display, or not yet. That's the Locust Street side. Dan, can you go to the, yeah. That's a composite of zoning. Everything zoned right now on Locust Street is heavy industrial. So that's not going to change. By making a plan development that gives the company, gives the neighbors the ability to move some things around. Because these buildings were built before there was zoning. And so if they're like what they're doing right now, if we had to have setbacks from property lines on existing lots, you couldn't do it. So the planning of that development, the PD designation helps there. It helps the neighborhood, it helps the company, helps the city indirectly in that respect. Now what's being proposed over here on the east side is a large area that's been industrial for as long as anybody here has been alive, more so. When IDEA was there were trucks moving in and out of there all day long, all day, every day, 7 days a week. And if somebody's lived there for 30 years, I'm sure they recognize that. Every day on Lincoln Highway, there is traffic going 35, oftentimes more there. Probably should have more enforcement there. Faster than that. Semis constantly. Transfer trailers, the big ones that carry the rubbish, smaller garbage trucks, gas trucks, fuel trucks, a lot of things. That's not going to change. It is a state highway. It's a designated truck route in Illinois. And vehicles make turns on and off this street, whether they're going, think about all the garbage trucks that go down to Simmons Avenue all day long, making left turns, making right turns. So there would be traffic enforcement. We can certainly promise that. Is it likely that the trucks that are coming in with the spools are going to be parking on the highway? Not at all. Not at all. They can't park on the highway. They don't park now, they're not going to park later. And what is the company proposing to do? Create a nice avenue. Right now, if you look across the street from where the couple were speaking, that's not very good looking. There has been a combination of small buildings there. Some have been torn down already. These will be torn down. These buildings were built around the time of the First World War, 100 and some years ago. And they have been variously occupied and right now are probably underserving in the sense of not being fully occupied. And they will be torn down, and a boulevard is going to be put in there to provide a better view if you're living across the street than what you see now. So when we heard this and we realized the company, which could be someplace else in an area where they don't have to try to pick and choose and squeeze and so forth, that they could be someplace else, we thought, this is great. This is a company that employs a lot of people that's trying to be a good citizen. So I understand. I'm a light sleeper. If somebody's honking a horn at night, then I would hear that. So call the police. The company's saying, call the police.
They won't come.
Well, that's not true, sir.
Yes, sir.
No, I can't say that. I can't say that. If you actually call 911, they will come.
I called July the 3rd at 10:30 for fire alarm. It went off in the parking lot over here. I called at 10:30.
Sir, I will check that out. If you called at 9:30 on July 3rd,
10:30.
10:30 on July 3rd,
That's right.
you called the DeKalb Police Department.
I did, and I
You
sent
called
it-
911.
No, non-emergency.
What?
Non-emergency,
Why didn't you call 911?
because nobody's life is in danger.
No, that's not true, sir.
No, I
You
called-
call 911 because here's what happens at night, and this is true. At night, 911, well, any time of day, 911 takes precedence, as you would imagine. So on the night before 4th of July, and actually, as you probably know, through that weekend before and also on that Monday night, police were running calls all the time about illegal fireworks and so forth. If you call the non-emergency number, you're getting the same person who also answers 911, because that's how that works. So they will answer 911.
Gentlemen, for the sake of this meeting, again, I would be happy if you
Sorry.
had a sidebar after the fact, which is fine. And I understand there's a myriad of things that you want to discuss, not anything that relates simply to this. And for all, no, it's okay. And for all practical purposes, this really is simply a zoning hearing.
We understand that, but just because it was involving Nearing and the problems we've had for the last 3 years, and I've never met any of the other neighbors that are here in the other area, they can see something similar to what we're doing.
And I appreciate you coming in and speaking to it, because this is a public forum, and that's a good way to get some results. But again, that having been said, anything that digresses from what I'm doing right here, I just need to move along and make sure that I discuss the zoning in and as it is and the changes that they're in. So, but again, I applaud you for picking a right time to be broadcast and be heard.
So if I may finish up, Mr. Naring, the question was, with the addition of 2 docks, do you anticipate that will, one, alleviate that problem, and B, that as you address their concerns regarding noise, your conversation with your forklift drivers should also help to handle that? And I think that does pertain to zoning, because you've got to balance the zoning needs of both the corporate and the residential people. So can you give me some information on that? Is your expectation that the additional docks should alleviate a good amount of that?
That was the intent.
Okay,
Of those 2 docks.
all right.
Off the street.
And confirmation that you will talk with your,
Absolutely.
thank you.
That part I do have some input.
Yeah, absolutely.
The truckers, not so much.
Thank you.
Well, and you know, again, with the addition of the new land across the street, I mean, maybe there's an area that could be used as a staging lot for people instead of waiting on Locust Street. I think that would be a reasonable compromise, that they check in across the street, and as soon as they're ready, they get radioed and pull in. Just a suggestion, but I'm sure that there are compromises, and I do believe that Mr. Hott is in earnest when he says that he wants to work with you as well. So, I suggest you continue your conversations. Are there any other questions regarding the zoning from anyone in the commission?
I just want to say, I don't want to belabor anything.
I was gonna wait.
I do think that, I'm glad that Area is acquiring these properties. I'm prayerful that it will alleviate some of the traffic issues. But I can hear the residents too saying that, we understand there's an increase in your business, there may be an increase in this kind of traffic, and I can see the angst on their faces when they hear that kind of thing because of what's happening now. And as we sit here as officials, and I hear residents talking, and I feel like even when we say call the police, I'm thinking if the businesses are, your business is interacting with the trucking business, that it would be nice to have something else done, if there can be something that blocks that area some way that you can intervene a little more besides telling the resident to call the police. I think that you may want to assess for yourselves too what can make you a better neighbor for them also. If I'm hearing somebody say that they've had these problems for 3-4 years, then I think that it would be good business to say we'll look into it a little further and see what we can do to keep those trucks. Besides saying we told them they can be there, but something that can be more of a stopgap measure that can be heavier. It feels like that, may have that kind of potential. So I just wanted to say that.
And to Mr. Nicholas's point, call 911. I appreciate that you were trying to be kind because it was a non-emergency. And if that is the case, I would say be as proactive as you can. So anyway, going back to the zoning portion of it, if there are no other questions, anyone? I will ask for a motion to approve.
I'll make a motion. Based upon the submitted petition and the testimony presented, I move the Planning and Zoning Commission forward its findings of fact and recommend to the City Council approval of the rezoning request for the parcels as listed on the charts and maps labeled as Exhibit A and per the development standards in Exhibit B.
So moved by McMahon. May I have a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Becker. Roll call, please.
Becker,
Yes.
O'Flaherty,
Yes.
Pena Graham,
Yes.
Wright,
Yes.
McMahon,
Yes.
Maxwell,
Yes.
motion passes.
Thank you very much. The second public hearing is a petition by Jessica Cross and Nelson Lauersdorf. Thank you very much. For approval of variance to Article 7.06.4.b and Article 7.06.6 of the Unified Development Ordinance to allow a 6-foot high privacy fence in a portion of the front yard along East Taylor Street for the property located at 801 South 8th Street.
Yes, hello, good evening. I am Jessica Cross, the property owner at 801 South 8th Street, along with my husband, who is currently working, so he could not be here today. We are interested in replacing our fence and rebuilding just about as is. Unfortunately, when our fence was built, it went past the structure, the house, and that is currently not allowed by code to have a privacy fence past the structure that is over 3 foot tall. So we would like to get a variance to rebuild this fence to have a 6-foot privacy portion along the backside of the house. And then the front portion would be a 4-foot 50% open, which would meet the code. To address why we need a variance and why we need a 6-foot privacy fence to the sidewalk past our structure. We have dogs who can and have jumped 3-foot and 4-foot fences. And then as far as putting in a 50% open fence, those of you who also have Houdini dogs, as I like to call them, where there's a will, there's a way. So if they see an opening, they want to take it. Additionally, my property is 1 block east of Founders Elementary School. We have been asked to keep our dogs inside the house when children are passing because of fears of dogs. Now, I want to say that my dogs are absolutely lovable, cuddly beasts. They have no history of violence, even with children. But, you know, those of you with children know that you cannot alleviate a child's fear just by saying, "It's okay, sweetie." So to help address also the fears of the children walking by, we want the 6-foot privacy fence to put an additional line of defense to alleviate those children's concerns as they're walking by. Our property, if we did not have a 6-foot privacy fence to the sidewalk, would lose private access to 720 square feet of usable yard in our backyard. This puts us 600 square feet less than our smallest neighbor and over 1,000 square feet less than our other neighbors that are comparable properties. So this would be a significant reduction in usable backyard space, which would decrease our property value and our enjoyment of our property as well.
Thank you very much. Staff report, please.
Yes, thank you. Jessica did a great job explaining their hardship. As mentioned, for corner lots, we only allow a 6-foot high privacy fence, can't be any closer to the street than the house. So they're replacing an existing fence that was built prior to 2009. In 2009, the city changed the regulations for corner lots that you had to have the privacy fence 6 foot in height, had to be no closer to the street than the house on both sides, both street sides. Prior to that, we did allow it for one side, the side that did not have the driveway. So that's when the fence was constructed. I think I found it's pretty much vegetation now. That's a look from Taylor Street. This is from 2007. It shows it the best because of the vegetation growth, but you can see. And at that time, you could build the privacy fence in the on a corner lot in one of the yards facing the street. Now you have to no closer to the home. So. What they want to do is a 4-foot high open fence here. It's not the whole yard, and then they'll transition down up to 6 foot privacy here, and then back around the site. So it's an area basically only in here that's not meeting the code. So as explained by Jessica, hardship, if they have to build the fence per the code, it'd be from the edge of the house straight back. That would reduce their usable rear yard quite a bit, and she did a nice comparison to other yards where their usable rear yard would be less than their neighbors, so it would be kind of a hardship on them compared to their neighbors. What we look at also is the reason why there's a requirement regarding no 6-foot high privacy fences in the yards butting a street is the adjacent property. So as you can see here, you can see the fence. We take a look at this yard here. So, and this house faces 7th Street with the driveway, so there's really no effect on the visibility of having a 6-foot high fence here. If the home faced Taylor Street, there might be an issue where you'd have almost the blockage of the house until you got right in front of it, but that's not the case here. That's why we do variances, so we look case by case, lot by lot. That's what the purpose is for a variance, because each location's different. And that's the neighbors there to the towards 7th Street. They actually built the privacy fence a few years back that's in line with the home. This is the back of the fence, Jessica's home. So that's the front of the house, and that's looking down the street. So we felt they, as a staff, they met the requirements for a variance, which are spelled out here, the findings of fact. Particularly the case where their usable rear yard is going to be reduced down. As you can see, the rear yards in these other areas are a little bit larger. The footprint of the home and their patio is larger than other homes. So if they met the requirement, their usable rear yard would be quite a bit less than their neighbors. So that was a big item with their variance. So they're meeting all the findings of fact. They didn't create this situation. They purchased the property in 2017. The lot was recorded in 1978. Screen deck was built prior to 2017, and the fence prior to them owning it too. So it wasn't caused by the applicant's actions. And they meet all the other requirements. It's not gonna, we did not receive any written comments against this variance. In fact, we received an email from Tatiana Butler, 809 South 8th Street. That's directly south of the home, indicating support for the variance. And that email is in your packet. So we recommend approval. Again, the commission has, you have the yes or no here. It's not a recommendation to council. So we're recommending the commission approve this variance to the two articles noted per the Exhibit A, which you see up here, which shows the location of the fence and the heights as around the home.
Thank you, Dan. Is there anybody else that would like to speak to this? Please step forward. If not, I'll close the public hearing and open it up to questions from the commission. I'll ask for a vote to approve. Motion, rather.
I'll make the motion.
Motion by Flaherty.
Based on the submitted petition, testimony presented, and findings of fact, I move that the Planning and Zoning Commission approve a variance to Article 7.06.4B and Article 7.06.6 of the Unified Development Ordinance to allow a 6-foot-high privacy fence in a portion of the front yard along East Taylor Street for the property located at 801 South 8th Street, as shown on Exhibit A of the staff report dated July 13th, 2023.
Motion by Flaherty. May I have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Wright. May I have a roll call?
Becker?
Yes.
O'Flaherty?
Yes.
Pena Graham?
Yes.
Wright?
Yes.
McMahon?
Yes.
Maxwell?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you very much. Staff reports?
Yeah, just quick, next scheduled meeting is August 7th. There's no hearings yet, no agenda items, but if we do cancel, it'll be the Thursday before. And I handed out tonight the budget calendar, which the council just approved. But I highlighted 3 dates here, August 21st, October 16th, November 20th, where the council and the Finance Advisory Committee will be meeting here in the library. So if we have meetings those evenings, we'll be at the police department, second level there in the training room, as we did last fall too.
Sure.
Also, so just for your information.
Thank you, sir. Any other comments? If not, I will ask for a motion to adjourn.
So move.
Motion by Wright.
Rhea always looks at me when that motion's being made. I will second that motion.
Seconded by Becker. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Thank you very much, everyone. Have a lovely evening.
Hey, man. If I'm telling the folks, they shouldn't have to call the police, they should have their guy watching his truck got all messed up. Oh, that's a guy watching television in his cab.